Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are covering the big series that's coming out this year, or this week.
Yeah, this should
movies.
coincide with the theatrical release.
We're actually coinciding for once, and we do it every now and then.
Yeah.
But, we caught it in time. We're doing The Eternals by Jack Kirby, the original Eternals.
conceived.
Conceived
by Jack Kirby.
So this is funny. I was telling John about this. When you look at the first title page of this, it is very obvious that Jack Kirby's like, fuck Stan Lee, because he literally says, like, conceived, written, and drawn by Jack Kirby. Like, any idea that anyone else had anything to do with this bullshit, specifically that motherfucker Stan Lee, he didn't do shit. So, I thought that was funny.
Stan Lee put his little stamp in the top corner saying, like, yes, this comes from Marvel Publishing, and that is it.
Yeah, that's it. So it was an interesting time in comics. This was from the 70s, and this is actually his return to Marvel because he got fed up initially with, I guess, Jack Kirby and Marvel. And at the time, you only had another, like, couple places you could go, and one of those was DC. So he went over to DC and made some awesome fucking comics over there. He created such characters as the Demon Etrigan. What else did he do? He did all of the Fourth World stuff, so all of the New Gods and Dark Side and all that shit. That was all him.
Hell yeah.
He wrote a bunch of Superman, and it was just cool shit that he did. So, basically created made his own little stamp of awesomeness over there at DC. And then I don't know exactly what happened, whether there was a falling out or just he, I think it was like, we want to go in a different direction. And he's like, well, I'm not done with my thing. And they're like, well, we're going in a different direction. And he was like, okay, I'll just leave and go back to Marvel. So he came back to Marvel, and he, like we said, he had been doing the New Gods over at DC. And he was like, and this is conjecture. I don't know if he actually did this and was like saying this to himself, but it is him being like, the Eternals are kind of like the Marvel's New Gods. Now, when I say that, there's not like a direct link or direct copy of it or anything. He actually went out of his way to create his own new mythology for Marvel that is specifically for Marvel. Like, it's not like a direct copy or anything.
No, it's just. I get what you're saying. It's like it's Marvel's version of this, like, outerly, like, godlike characters.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like if you think. So Marvel had Spider-Man, and then, like, Milestone created Static to be like their Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, he's not Spider-Man at all. He's just like a young character.
Yeah.
Like, and this is his, like, I'm going to create gods in Marvel like I did in DC, and this is his Marvel version of gods. So, I liked this as far as like it all is like Earth based, whereas the DC stuff is all outer space based. So it's like that's what separates it. I think a lot of this takes place. A lot of the art and everything is very like Mayan, Incan, Aztec-y.
Yeah, all that
Mesoamerican kind of Native American stuff.
It's fantastic. Like,
yeah,
I love the art direction in this one. I was looking back over just back to some of the characters he helped create, as far, because I know, like, he and Joe Simon did Captain America.
Well, Captain America, yeah.
So, yeah, that's our favorite.
That's our favorite. He created Captain America.
Yeah.
In fact, he was the one who did the punch in the Hitler's face.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And then, like, obviously him and Stan Lee did, like, the Fantastic Four. But when I was reading over some of it, they did that. But did he create Silver Surfer? Is that just his?
No, because they were writing it together.
So that's all part. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Black Panther, is that just his, or is that him and Stan Lee?
No, that's him and Stan Lee. Anytime you create a character and you have a writer on the book, it's a co-creation.
It's a co-creation. Okay.
Now, depending on how you ask that.
Oh yeah.
No, for a while that wasn't the case. For a while it was just Stan Lee created these things.
Yes.
And then Jack Kirby and other people were like, fuck you. I drew these things, and you just said the word Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I had to come up
like
with
Bruce...
what he fucking looks like and what he does and his powers and shit.
That's Peter Parker in the Wings. He's like, what's your name, kid? He's like, the Human Spider. He's like, that's a crap name. And Stan Lee's like, Spider-Man, everybody. Look at this guy.
Yeah. Well, it's even worse than that because there wasn't even he just names it out of nothing. And then, or I'd say it's more like, it's like Steve Jobs being like, what if you could make music in a box, like in a pod that you carried with you, an iPod. Design it, come up with it, and then you're not the creator of the iPod. He is, yeah. He created the word iPod or like the idea of what it would do, but you had to design, create it, figure it out, like make it fit in the palm of your hand. And you don't have any credit over that.
And then he puts his little signature on the box, and it's like, iPod by Steve Jobs. I made this. All me.
Yes. So there's very much that aspect of the early creator rights thing. So Jack Kirby was like, fuck you, I'm doing this myself.
Not for this. Not when he came back. This is Jack Kirby.
Also,
Eternal.
The reason why he went to DC is because they had better rights stuff. At least, I don't know if they did it this time, but right around this time, you had a lot of the same creators that were writing like Batman and stuff. They were like kind of the new ilk, and they were like hippies. So they were kind of like, no, everybody gets credit for this shit, man. And they started like their own writers and artists like creative thing. So DC actually historically and continuously now has had better like rates or better rights stuff for people. Like when you create with them, you have more rights over things generally. Not always, but like, like they can still fuck you over. Like, if you're Alan Moore or whatever, they figured that out. But like, but generally, if you create something, you will always get like, your royalties or whatever. Or you should. It's owed to you in the contract at least.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, all this is contracts, so whether you actually get the money or not, I don't know, but but in the contract you have a better version of rights or whatever to you. So, and then I guess Marvel had to follow suit somewhat, but they're still behind as far as that's concerned. So, like for example, Winter Soldier, Ed Brubaker, the creator of Winter Soldier, even though he didn't create Bucky, he created the character Winter Soldier, but he doesn't get any rights to that because Bucky was already a character.
What?
Yep, he made more money from appearing in the movie than he did for creating the character that all the movies are based on.
Wow.
And the TV show and
that is mind blowing. I did not know that.
That's why he's like, fuck this, I'm doing my own shit now. Like he only writes mysteries and all that stuff now. So he only writes, and we might be covering some of his stuff more in the next coming up episodes, but we're gonna do, or he only writes like crime and cool books, like noir books, mystery books now for Image, so which is like self-creator stuff. So
that's cool. I've enjoyed a lot of the Parker series is really good.
Yeah, but that's actually, he says one of the books he came up with called Reckless was like him being like, I was inspired by Darwin Cook doing Parker.
Nice.
And I'm doing these now.
Okay, well I definitely look forward to that.
Yeah. So, but that's a future podcast. We'll definitely go do the Reckless books. But
the Eternals is today.
The Eternals is today. Jack Kirby, one hell of a creative motherfucker. We'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
And basically we also want to do this because the Eternals are like unknown, like to a lot of people, including myself. I never read these. John, you never read these.
Same.
Right? So
yeah, no, I saw, we saw the trailer. They announced Eternals, a while back, and we're like, what's that? I'm like, and then
I knew the name and I knew what it was. I knew it was like celestials and gods and stuff.
Yeah, you know some more than me because I didn't. And then, I saw the trailer, way back before COVID when they started working on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that sounds wild and cool. And that's kind of like the Guardians. Like, I didn't know much about the Guardians beforehand. So I was like, well, let's check this out. And yeah, so I'm glad we rated it. Like, it's definitely gets me more pumped now.
Yeah. Oh, I just thought of a bunch of other stuff he created for DC. Devil Dinosaur. He created OMAC. He created all these one-off series that everybody loves. So.
Nice.
Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there because he's fucking awesome. So, and all those are good. Go check those books out. They're fun. They're great. So, but yeah, so this is, like we said, it's the gods of the Marvel Universe. And we start off in the first issue with the Day of the Gods is the name of this issue. And basically we got this team of archaeologists. The team is just two people. It's a guy named Dr. Damien and his daughter.
His daughter Margot. Oh, and then their cameraman.
Yeah, who's named Ike Harris, which will come into play later.
Ike Harris.
And he's a guy, a hat on, and he's got sunglasses, like he's incognito. He's wearing sunglasses inside of a dark
inside of a
temple.
Yeah.
They have it's basically like Raiders of the Lost Ark, except inside of Mesoamerican or like yeah.
Oh, so
they're in Incan,
like the fourth Indiana Jones.
Like the fourth Indiana Jones, but unlike the fourth Indiana Jones
that you just admitted was real. I'd like to point that out. I don't know how many episodes of this podcast it took. Just in case you don't know, just a real quick backstory. That is a long running thing on our podcast that Matt has always said there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the new one.
The new one that's coming out, the 5th Indiana Jones.
The 4th one.
No, I'm talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, I don't know what that is. Is that a book?
That's one of the video games. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Anyway, so yes, this temple.
So this temple that they go into, it has like a large. They're like, oh my god, this is like bigger than anything we've ever seen. It's got all this crazy like artwork. It looks kind of like Alien. Like there's a ship, but there's a giant person in the driver's seat of the ship, kind of like Alien.
Yeah, this kind of
like spaceship or whatever. But it's like the Mesoamerican version of that. And I will also say like his art style really fits this like Native American, like Central American art, stuff or whatever, South American art. So
very much so.
Just like the angles and stuff, it really fits his style. So they break in like, oh my god, this is like we've never seen anything like this before, and the video guys filming everything, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And it's weird because he's like the film guy was like, yeah, I just had an idea that maybe it was over here, like so he's the guy that had the hunch that led them into this passageway that led them into the big room that has everything. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go look over here while you guys talk about stuff. And he just starts searching for something. We don't know. Then we cut to a plane flying over the ocean. And the guy's like, Mayday, Mayday, something's going on. There's a big storm. I can't see what's going on. There's like fireworks and shit. I can't describe it. And we see like the Kirby crackle, if you don't know what that is. It's like he was like really, really good at figuring out how to draw like space beams and stuff. Like what does a phaser beam look like and whatnot? So like, or what is gamma rays?
Yeah.
Like, and he would draw like these circles and shapes and stuff that were just floating in space, but they had like dynamic movement in them, but they're just like black dots and shit. But he would draw them in a certain kind of array that made it look like things are happening or things are going on. So it's called Kirby Crackle.
I didn't know it was called Kirby Crackle.
Yeah, so he's got all this Kirby Crackle going on. And the guy ejects from the plane, but he still doesn't make it. He still bursts into Kirby Crackle flames, and his plane blows up. And then we see, we get like these weird people, some spaceship comes out of the water looking thing, and they're like, the disruptor is done. Like we've accomplished whatever we're trying to do. And we see there's like this guy with sunglasses. He looks kind of weird, like evil. And
kind of looks like a pink Thanos a little.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
Just to give you like, if you were just listening.
Yeah. And he's talking about like, it looks like basically they're on the ocean floor and they sent up this thing. And these are people called the Deviants. And they're like the Deviants are, we're not going to explain exactly what they are yet, but they got weird names. One of them's named Crow. He's like the main guy that we are with in this first 6 issues.
He's kind of like the main.
He's the number 2 guy.
Yeah, we'll call him the enforcer character.
There you go. Yeah, but there's a dude named Toad. There's a dude named Nat. There's a dude named Dog. They're all named like kind of after like lesser animals, we'll say, or whatever. Like not less. I mean, we'll say gross animals.
They're named kind of unsavory names because part of their culture that we'll learn is that they're all kind of unsavory characters because of their characteristics. They all are very kind of deformed looking creatures.
Yeah, they all have like different looking features as well.
Yeah.
They're all just like, they don't look, some of them look more humanoid than others, and they actually make fun of the ones that look more humanoid. But like the ones that are more deformed or whatever from a human shape, they're like that toad is the king, and he looks more like egg or something, like a giant egg that's rotten. He's green and everything, so, and his face is all like spoiled looking and reptilian or something. But we don't know what's up with them, but they're like, we need to send a spaceship to the Incan area stat or whatever, or not a spaceship, a sea ship.
Yeah,
because they're under the water. So it says this is the fabled city of Lemuria, which is, I'm assuming, kind of supposed to be like Atlantis, but probably Atlantis was off limits because at this time Conan and Kull the Conqueror were being published by Marvel as well.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, you can't use Atlantis because those are in those books. So you have to come up with your own thing. So he's like, okay, Lemuria. All right, there you go. So there's a water ship that shoots out, and like they're going to, Crow is going to specifically the Incan area that the explorers are in, and they don't know that this is happening. Margot and Dr. Damien is like, we're just looking around, and this is quite an exceptional find or whatever. And and then all of a sudden,
Icarus finds something else.
Yeah, he finds something else. This cameraman is really good at finding shit.
Icarus, you're amazing.
Yeah, he finds a window into the fucking space. Like, he finds a window into the planet, the celestial bodies surrounding Earth, and universes and whatnot. It's literally a window that looks like a telescope, but like way farther into space. Turns out it is a beacon, and that is actually what the Deviants were like. We need to get us our ships there. We need to get there before the beacon is turned on. Well, Icarus turns on the beacon before they can get there, and a ship gets called there or whatever. So a ship is on its way. Then Dr. Damien and his daughter are like, hold on a second, you aren't Icarus, are you? You're not who you said you are. Like, how do you know all these things? He's like, you're right. I am not Icarus. I am Icarus. And he reveals himself to be one of the Eternals. I guess the one that, I don't know, like, was supposed to start this thing. They don't really say like why he starts it, right?
No, not specifically.
He's just with these people. Maybe they were going to discover it, and he just wanted to be there to help them do the beacon, or else the Deviants would kill them or something. But, so Icarus is this new god. I'm not new. I'm going to say new god because
is this eternal?
Is this eternal? And he's helping them. But he's like, I am not one of your species, but we are related in many ways. And so he kind of gives a giant history of what's going on. So this is where we get the myth of what the Eternals are, what the Celestials are, what the Deviants are.
This is where it gets a little wordy.
Yeah. Well, no, but like, I mean,
no,
not
in a bad way. It's not in a Stan Lee take up all of your art way.
No, this is in a Kirby way, which takes up less of the art way.
Yes.
So, but basically he says there was these things called the Celestials, these beings in space. They came down to Earth because they liked the amount of life on it or whatever, like animal life. They found apes who they were like, ooh, these look pretty good. Yeah, we could test on those. They tested they said they used their cosmic chemistry to like test and like create new races with these apes. And specifically they created 3 races. One is called the Deviant, and it says they are ever changing and a destructive failure. So like they basically their faces and stuff are unstable molecules, we'll say. They can change their body shape and body type and how they look and all this stuff, but they all look weird and creepy.
And for the most part, they very, very tend to kind of be on like we'll say the evil, chaos kind of almost warmongering all the time characters.
He says specifically that this was this the Deviants have constant war, kind of like in their heart or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and so just like their being, like they're not stable, they're just chaotic or whatever. So then the second species was humans, and they're the most balanced because they can go either way between celestial or between eternal and deviants. And then and they're the basically we were destined to inherit the earth, he says, because of that, because of our balanced nature. And then the eternal, who's more of a child of the gods than the earth, because he reaches for the universe.
Yes.
And basically they're bred in fewer numbers, but they're immune to time and death. So like the gods, they live apart from the humans in a place called Olympia.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah. Obviously, Icarus been living with the humans, figuring shit out. But like, yeah, they live on a tall mountain, and that's like their home base or whatever. So,
sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, a little bit like, and I think he meant it to be like, hey, we're going to basically, I'm going to relate this to actual mythology.
Yeah, Tim.
That way it grounds it in Earth, kind of thing, humans and stuff.
Very much so.
So, of like who would the Greeks worship? These Olympians, so like, but they call them different names or whatever. Although their names are similar.
Similar enough, yeah.
So, I will say the names, like we have Icarus, obviously, is this guy. Then we have like Ajax, Circe, Makari, who's supposed to be like Mercury.
Yeah.
And Zaros, which is supposed to be like Zeus.
Yeah.
And Athena and Domo. So like they all have kind of like Greek-ish names. And then we find out in the history of this stuff that the Deviants, because they're so volatile, they clash with men and kind of subjugated men. And then the Celestials came back and they were like, no, this ain't cool. So they actually flooded the earth, and that's like kind of like Noah's flood kind of thing. But that's when Lemuria got sunk under the ocean.
Yeah, because that's basically their. I mean, they learned to survive there, but that basically like pulled the Deviants and the humans apart from like living in close proximity.
Similar areas. Yeah, because otherwise humans would be either wiped out or would be a constant war with the Deviants. Kind of thing. So yeah, that's basically the history of the two or of the three, and Celestials now have been called by this beacon that Icarus started to come back to Earth. So Papa's coming home.
Why?
But why? Yeah, but why? So the Deviants are like, fuck, we got to get there before the beacons, trigger fully or whatever, and they're already too late. It's already triggered by the time they get there. And but they still fight. They still have a little bit of a battle with Icarus. He gets to show his powers. We see his eyes are goddamn yellow eyes, which I thought was funny. I was like, whenever I see yellow eyes, I think of Christmas Story, where he's like, he had yellow eyes. Yeah. God, I swear to God, yellow eyes. But he's got yellow eyes, which sets him apart from the humans, obviously. And he has beams that shoot out of his eyes. He also can like create force fields kind of things.
Yeah.
And so he does that to block what they're doing. I thought this was funny. While he can create force fields and stuff to block energy beams, he cannot block sheets that get thrown over him because they shoot a black sheet over his face.
Gun.
Yeah, basically. They're like, you can't get out of this, and they shoot a shroud gun over him, or a shroud over him.
I'm sure it's some kind of magically shroud.
Sure, it's deviant technology. It says. And so they throw it over him so that he can't use his seeing powers or anything. And although I thought it was funny, the Dr. Damien's like, don't worry, I'll keep him off with my 6-shooter. These fucking demon gods that we've just found.
Yeah, that you just heard about.
Yeah, like what the fuck are you talking about? But he goes all ham on them with his 6-shooter, and while Margot's like, I'll uncover you, Icarus. Don't worry. I'm like, he's a god. Like, what?
He
has no need your help. But yeah, so eventually they get all this stuff off of them. But right by the time all the fighting is still occurring, the gods show up. Everybody stops.
The giant ship appears.
Yeah, I mean, the giant ship appears from the Celestials, who was the gods that created all of this Earth life that we found out about. and the Deviants, included, stop fighting. They're like, "Oh shit, pop us home. We're gonna get in trouble." So that's issue 1. We find out in issue 2, the Celestials, they are coming. Who are they? And that's where we see like very cool spaceship designs from Kirby. He always has like the best spaceship shit. So, but if you look at his spaceships and stuff, you can totally see like the Miracle Man ships and stuff.
Oh yeah,
the way that they draw Miracle Man flying, all that bubbles and shit that come off him. It's their version of the Kirby Crackle for sure. He influenced so many artists, and he really figured out how to make stuff look dynamic on the page and whatnot. Not just someone standing there and talking, or a ship just hovering or whatever. It looks like it's fucking, like it's coming down, it's kicking ass or whatever. So it says the gods have returned, and basically, we see Icarus is saying, my species, the Eternals, have been preparing for 1,000 years for this. So the last time they came was 1,000 years ago. Apparently they knew the Incas, which is how they had this whole thing, built for them or whatever, this temple or whatever.
Yeah, that's why he knew this was set up there.
Yeah. So, and basically they're like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Like the Deviants, we gotta get the fuck out of here because we're gonna be in trouble. We're gonna get fucked over again by the Celestials, like we were when the flood happened, kind of thing. And so they leave kind of by force because the lightning starts to kind of happen from the ship coming down, and everybody's kind of forced to leave out of this thing.
It's kind of like all the beams and lightning and stuff coming from the ship is like kind of making the temple crumble around them. And even Icarus is like, why are they they came because we've been prepared for them, but why are they acting like, it seems like they're acting a little more erratic than he would have thought.
Right.
Something's a little off.
Yes. So he's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to trigger this God symbol, which is supposed to raise a pedestal that the one of the gods is supposed to sit on or whatever. So it'll call the god out of the ship, basically, is what it is. And so he does that. And when he does that, we also get the next new god, not new god, damn, I'm going to call him
the next Eternal.
The next Eternal, and his name is Ajax. He's just like, hey, what's it going? He looks very Mesoamerican or whatever. He's got Incan garb on and shit too. So he was obviously around during the Incans, and he's like, check out my duds. He's got 70s cool speak as well, which is a little interesting. But yeah, I don't know. The way he comes up with dialogue for these people sometimes is interesting. Same in DC. When he wrote that stuff, it's like, what's going on, cool cat? It's like, what? Why is he talking like a hippie from the 70s? I'm like, oh, because he's trying to relate to them kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this guy is one of those kind of people. He doesn't really do much in this show, or in this issue though, or in this series, the first 6 issues. He's just around in this base area.
It seems like they're all. This is one of the weird things that we're gonna get to learn about the Eternals is they're all kind of like a Superman-esque character as far as, because they can't die, they can't really get they get, some of them get blasted and stuff when they're fighting, but it doesn't really
they don't get mortally injured or anything.
Yeah, it's not even like kryptonite. It's like, okay, I'm better now. I get up and dust myself off.
We do find out obviously the shroud works, and then and then another thing that happens is they can get paralyzed or whatever.
Yeah.
So they don't get hurt, but they can get trapped in their body.
And I'm wondering if that might also lead to some kind of mind control later too. That's just where my head went with it. But it does seem like they all do have some kind of specialized power as well. Not all of them have this. So whereas Icarus can create these beams, he can kind of fly. He can fly, and he can also have these force fieldy kind of things. Ajax is the only one apparently of the Eternals that actually can somewhat communicate or somewhat understand what the Celestials say.
He's he's got the reason why he came back right now when we triggered this pillar or whatever to come up is because he's able to talk to the gods somewhat. He's got this little thing in his hand, which I'm assuming is the transmitter. It looks like a transistor.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it looks like a big transistor. Like if you could hold a transistor in your hand is what it would look like. So I'm assuming that's what it is. He's supposed to like be able to talk to the gods through that. And it even looks like he's talking into them. Like there's little like horns almost coming out of there's like 3 horns coming out of the top of him. And it looks like he could talk straight through that into the god's ears or something. So, but he's like, prepare to raise the ceremonial pylons beneath the celestial spacecraft. The gods descend or whatever, you know. So the pylons are coming up. The gods are coming down. And we see the main god that comes down is this god of judgment named Arishem. And Arishem is this big red motherfucker. Apparently, he's like 1,000 feet tall, from what later on the humans say, because he's a big, scary guy. But yeah, he comes down and he kind of looks like a 50s robot, I would say.
He does
I'd say a lot of the Celestials kind of look like 50s robots, or like the day the Earth stood still.
Oh, that's a really good,
Yeah. Something like that, like a 50s space monster.
The thing that
robots.
The thing other than their colors, because they're all like kind of one main color. The thing that really distinguishes them is kind of their I don't know if their head. I would say if it's heads or helmets. I don't know
they're
for sure.
Helmets.
Yeah, well, because we don't know if there's like a being under that or if they are just these like machine-looking things.
Right.
But
it's like Independence Day where you're like, oh, fuck that alien, and then it's a little tiny.
There's a little, that makes me kind of wonder. But that is one, like all of their helmets are really cool designs. I love all of them.
Yeah, they all look very unique, and you can definitely tell them apart, which is cool.
Yeah, like his kind of look, it kind of reminds me of like an espresso pot with like IG-88 head around it, if you're a Star Wars fan. Which also already looks like a coffee pot kind of thing too.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as far as like he says he's basically the leader of all this, but it's also of the fourth host, and you're like, the fourth host, what's that? When that's something we'll kind of get into more as the story continues here. But apparently there are different like not levels. What's that? What am I? Different waves.
There you go.
That these Celestials come in,
arrows or something.
Yeah, and this is the fourth and would be the final. We find out wave, and now he will stand upon this pillar for 50 years,
and then we'll judge the earth.
Yeah, and we'll judge. Yeah, and that's crazy. So he is it's almost like a Rick and Morty like. Okay, I'm here. Show me what you got.
Wow, I like what you got.
Disqualified.
I love that. That'd be fantastic. Oh man,
I wonder. Makes me think like,
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
I bet
they at least know some of this stuff. So
yeah,
the idea that gods are coming to Earth.
I mean, how many references? What abundant references are in Rick and Morty?
Right.
From comics, from movies, So who knows? Probably.
Yeah, this is a pretty deep cut though. For Marvel, if you're a Marvel fan, it's still a deep cut. Like, these aren't like there's no series within the last. Well, there's one mini series that Neil Gaiman did in the 2000s, but other than that, there wasn't a series except this one. So like, there's not too much Eternal stuff out there. So
that's true. So if Rick and Morty beat Marvel to like rebringing back the Eternals, that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. But I like that. I like that comparison, though. I like what you got. Show me what you got. These giant heads, just telling Earth to dance or whatever to make a song. But yeah. So anyway, this Celestial comes down. Ajax does his like welcome ceremony to it and everything. And now it's just kind of on this pedestal. And so like now Dr. Damien and his daughter are like, man, this is crazy. Like, we have to wait a half century. Basically, Dr. Damien will be dead by that time, and Monroe, or not, was it Margot? Will be an old lady by then. And so, the doctor's like, you know what? Instead of like me just waiting for this judgment day or whatever, I'm gonna stay with like Ajax in this area and like research this whole stuff and just spend the rest of my days doing what I like, archaeology or whatever. And they're like, okay. But like Margot basically goes with Icarus because they're like, we got to take you out of here so you can.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like the Eternals definitely have like a love and like a caring affection for humans.
Yeah, it's kind of like it might be like a parental thing.
Yeah, maybe more. Yeah, like they definitely like they don't obviously want something bad to happen to them. They were kind of like, hey, I have conversed with you. I see that you're not like a terrible being. You're not leaning towards the bad side of being a human. So you can be like under my protection and grace while I'm here, kind of thing. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and so Margot though is not very okay with this. She's like, no, I don't want to leave my dad here. He's gonna die. I'm not gonna see him anymore. Like, what the fuck? And so she's kind of struggling with Icarus. And I thought this was interesting. This would not be in a comic nowadays. He's like, don't you understand? You're thinking with your emotions like a woman. He doesn't say like a woman, but he says thinking with your emotions. You're not being realistic. And he's like, she's like, I don't care. I don't want my dad to die out here. Let me out. And instead of like, letting her out or releasing her, he's also got his, hands on her wrist like he's grabbing her. He shoots her in the face with energy beams that knock her out. So he basically hits her and makes her go to sleep.
No, but he does it with sleep beams. They're sleep beams.
Yeah, they're sleep beams. Fists are also sleep beams.
No. They just go bloop and she goes sleep.
Yeah,
that's all this is. It's not the same. I
got a sleep beam too. It's called right hook.
One of these days.
Yeah. But yeah, she just passes out. He's like, all right, at least I saved her from all this craziness or whatever. So he's flying her out of there in a plane. And then we cut back to the Deviants because, like we said, they all left in fear. And I don't know what's going on here. But Crow looks like he's getting tied up for something else.
Oh, yes. No. He's getting punished, but yeah, it definitely looks a little...
They are called the Deviants. So it's a little kinky, if you know what I'm saying. But basically, Toad is punishing him for running, I guess, or not getting there
stopping,
before...
Yeah,
not getting there before the beam was sent. And but he's got these weird like tubes that are wrapped around him in a very hentai-ish way, we'll say.
Yeah.
And so you're like, where are the tubes going? They're wrapping around in very distinct areas,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think Kirby meant it to be like that. But sometimes things in these old comics look bad or whatever. So. Because they didn't have dirty minds like all of us nowadays.
Well, except Wonder Woman tying people up with her lasso. I mean, we all know why that was created.
Well, we know why he did it, but I don't know if the readers were necessarily into it like that. Oh, some of them probably were, but I think the kids were like, "Oh no, she's tied up again." I don't know if they were like, "Oh, she's tied up again." But anyway, yeah, the Toad is angry that Crow did not do a good job, did not stop this thing. But then we cut back to Icarus flying the plane, and he starts showing off. He puts on his fucking Icarus uniform. He just kind of blinks, and what he was wearing transforms into his Icarus get up or whatever, so you get to see what his costume looks like. And it looks a lot like New God's costume. I'm going to say he looks a lot like Orion. Just going to say that outright. I don't know if anybody knows who Orion is from the New Gods, but he looks a lot like Orion. And yeah.
It kind of made me think Thor a little, too, with the kind of the big circular chest plate things.
Yeah, he's got like these. Well, this was before that Thor, though.
Yeah.
Way before that Thor. So that Thor is like the ultimate Thor.
Well, no, because even like the Thor, like he's got those big circular things that keep his cape on the original Thor.
Oh yeah, well, I mean he drew the original Thor.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So
yes, and he also has like a little bit of hair.
Icarus is also blonde haired with a big, strong chin. So
yeah, like Thor. Although he's got a pretty wide nose. He's got a pretty wide nose. So, but he just flies out of the plane. Like, we're talking about a Cessna, right? Like, this is like a one single-engine Cessna that, like, these two are flying in. And he just, like, lets go of the controls, and she just flips the fuck out. Like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, don't worry. I'm fucking awesome. I can fly the plane with my mind or whatever, with my powers, while I'm flying outside of it. He gets a little, we'll call him, like, cocky or whatever, Then out of nowhere, the Deviants come, and they shoot him with a beam that, like, knocks him out. at least knocks him, out of being able to fly or whatever. And then he's got to get back in the plane. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, Eternals can be hurt, but they can't die. Like, so he gets kind of like winded, we'll say. He gets the wind knocked out of him by this beam. And then we find out another power he can do. He concentrates a bit while they're like about to shoot him, and he blinks them out of this part. He like transports them.
I was gonna say it's kind of like transportation. It made me think of Dragon Ball Z, like instant transmission. Like,
there you go.
He just thinks himself somewhere else.
Yeah, so he thinks them to New York, basically.
Yeah.
And so they fly to New York from wherever the fuck they were in South America.
Somewhere in South America.
I guess Peru or whatever. I don't know where's the Incans at? Is it Chile? He said the Andes Mountains, so it's got to be
Andes,
Chile.
yeah.
So, so they're in Chile and they teleport to New York, and the Deviants are like, fuck. Gotta fly to New York. That's like 20
You know how
hours.
much gas that is?
Yeah, you know how much gas? Do you know how much water it takes to fly to New York? Whatever. Yeah, so whatever they use for fuel, they got to fly all the way up there. And so they get to New York, and then he's like, hey, while we're here, I'm going to leave you with someone because like I got to like take care of some shit. So he takes her to a friend's house, he says, and we get introduced to the third Celestial that we see, or not Celestial, God damn it. Eternal.
The third Eternal.
I'm gonna call them that because it's just
everything except what they are.
Everything is DC to me. I'm sorry. So, so we get the third Eternal. Her name is Cersei, and she's like immortal and everything, just like him. But her powers are like magical. So she's like a sorceress.
Yeah,
and she also she's kind of the artsy one. She's a dancer. She's dancing as they walk into her hotel. And I don't know. She's just kind of a different kind of god or whatever, or demigod.
Yeah, I liked some of her backstory. She was talking about like she was around when Merlin was around and like hung out with him.
Taught him everything he knows.
Yeah, it's kind of some fun, interesting things. And in the meantime, we learn that the Deviants they realize what they're going to try to do now because they know that. So the Celestials the Celestials have come, and they know what the Celestials are there to do. They're there to judge. So like, okay, well, we got to make it so.
Yeah, we got to make the humans kind of get into a war. So like, we're going to attack them, so they'll attack us, and then attack everybody. They'll get scared. They know that humans are easily scared, basically. Yeah. And if they see us after these Celestials too, that might make them scared of the Celestials themselves, but also. We'll fight with them. We like war. They like war. It'll cause a bunch of mayhem.
Yeah, and hopefully, if anything, this will make the Celestials want to start over again, and the Deviants will be able to go back into their hiding, but be able to come back out and be on top again.
Yes.
Or at least not have to deal with as many of the humans as there are now.
Right. So they attack, like we said, they attack New York and they start causing mayhem. They attack them with these. Things called mutates that are basically like, if you are a fan of Power Rangers, putties, basically. They just can create these mutant-looking things. Yeah, they basically like, hey, we need something to fight stuff. They're like, here you go. Here's these mutates. So they start fighting Orion.
No, right.
I'm going to... Good God, I am going
Icarus.
Icarus. I'm going to just fuck this up horribly with the new gods.
That's fine. I want to make one other cool little comparison because part of Crow's plan that he said with it was just because of all the earthly references that Kirby's was putting into this. He said oh look, and he puts horns on him because I told you we said he's kind of pinkish, so he grows these horns almost kind of like
demon horns,
kind of Hellboyish, a little smaller, and he's like, I'll make them think I'm a demon from their hell or whatever.
Yeah.
So that really freaks them out.
Yeah, they'll get scared and they'll have to want to attack and stuff.
Yeah. So I just thought that was another nice little nod that he threw in there.
Yes. So at the beginning of this fight, we find out another thing that can disable an Eternal is something called. They're gonna blank him out. They say, and they have what is it called? This thing? It's called a brain mine. They call it, and it's like a little symbol that shoots out, or we'll call it a device that shoots out of a gun, like a microchip or something. It gets stuck in his head and just makes him go to sleep.
Yeah.
He's like trapped in his body, can't do anything. So they have him, Icarus, and you got to mutate. They send him with a mutate to out of the city, I guess, and they're actually going to put him inside of like a shell that they put under the ocean like forever. They're like, well, now he'll be gone and stuck under the ocean forever.
Yeah, he'll be trapped forever.
And it looks kind of like a pill. They put him inside a giant pill.
Yeah, it kind of remind me of like a torpedo shell or something.
Yeah, something like that, but without like a bomb.
A bomber, yeah.
Yeah. So he's under the ocean now.
It's like the Spock torpedo from Wrath of Khan, where they put him in and then they shoot him off.
Yes, and so very much so. And so they so now it's just Cersei and Margot, and they're in the apartment, and they're seeing all this stuff with the news. I don't know why they're not really worried though. I don't know why Cersei's not freaking out before this, but the mutates start attacking her building, and then she goes after them. Turns out she has beam eyes as well, but she also can do pretty much anything. She can turn like fire into water. She can turn them into reptiles or whatever. Like she turns the mutates into harmless lizards.
Little lizards.
And yeah, like shit like that. She can kind of do whatever she wants. So she looks into a mirror and calls the other Eternals and are like, hey, we need help. We need help over here in New York. The Deviants are attacking. And then, like we said, she calls basically Olympia is where the other Eternals are at. So this is where we get to meet the other people. We meet Makari. That's who she's talking to, and that's who Mercury is supposed to be. So what's funny is I thought there's someone named I think Makari in the New Gods as well, but it's I think it's pronounced mockery, and it's supposed to be like mocking.
Okay.
So it's like one of the evil gods or whatever. And in this
I
I was like, oh, it's mockery again. And then I was like, no, it's supposed to be Makari, like Mercury.
Like Mercury.
So it's supposed to be like the god of speed or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's confusing me on these things, okay? So anyway, she calls Mercury and tells him, hey, they're attacking. We need to get some more Eternals over here. And he's like, oh, okay. So he goes and runs to people and the other gods or whatever. And in the meantime, we see like the mutates are really attacking New York. It's funny because they mention this later on that no humans were killed, of course. It's just property damage. No harm done.
Yeah.
And they make sure of that for a specific reason at the end of this. But I thought that was funny because they're showing like buildings being attacked and shit. It's like, well, someone had to be in that room, No, they were at work, I guess. So, yeah, but we see the police come into this too. The police got fucking Tommy guns and shit and everything. So they're just as well. They got revolvers too, but they also have like BAR rifles and stuff. So like they're well armed against these people, and so but you get to see what Cersei's powers are fully because even what's his face Crow grabs her with his hand on her face, and she's like, I'm gonna change your hand into something, and she changes it into a stump of wood. So she's able to like even change deviants into whatever the fuck she wants, not just mutates. And so yeah, it's like the fuck. And then he is able. Oh no, I'm sorry. Then we cut to back to the Mercury guys and everything in Olympia, and we meet the rest of the Eternals, who are Zaras, who's like the head of them. There's like Zeus, Athena, and
Athena specifically. It's kind of like Athena, but yeah.
I said Athena.
I thought you said Athena.
I probably said and then
Athena.
Like,
excuse me.
Sorry, my bad. It's his fault for making it so close. But basically, Zaras is like, oh no, this century of world wars, mini wars, and guerrilla wars. Are we now to revive a cosmic war? So he's worried that, we're going to cause a cosmic war with the Celestials. And so he sends out all of them now to go fight or not necessarily fight. I think it's like to calm down the situation, basically.
Yeah, he's the ones there are he's gonna do, and he's gonna look kind of like closer at the situation with the Celestials and see what they're there, because he knows that they're there to judge, and like also where Ereshkigal is, he has like some other helper, like his lower Celestials that are like gathering things for him, and it's like we find out like it's gonna be like other creatures, other things that have been created, other life forms, like plants and animals and stuff.
Okay.
And it to like, I guess he's like looking at everything that has
On
been
Earth.
produced.
He's gonna judge everything.
Yeah.
What kind of weed you guys got? That's what kind of drugs have you guys come up with?
Yeah. Where's the good shit? Where?
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so now the Athena and Mercury are now fighting, and they're doing a pretty good job fighting all these guys. But basically, they are trying to, like we said, kind of calm things down, not exacerbate things. Because now we also see the men are like realizing that there's a 1,000-foot tall giant in the middle of the Andes now and stuff, and they're like, what is this? We are being attacked. And it's like the Pentagon. They also see another structure that came into like another like base or whatever that they see that is also an issue. And they're like, oh no, what is this thing, kind of thing. So they think like space is attacking along with these deviants and along with all this other shit. So they're freaking out. And, as the government does, they're like, shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing. So they're kind of on the edge of like, what are we going to do? This may end up being the damnedest war we ever fought. And so they are now paying attention to the situation a little too much for the Eternals, wanting. And so
I really like Athena and Mercury, especially Athena, because she very much seems like kind of like one of the most badass, most powerful of the Eternals, like at least warrior wise.
Yeah.
Like
she's ready to fight. She's kind of like the Wonder Woman or something. Like she's ready to fucking fight.
Yeah, like she's having no problem like with any of the obviously the mutates.
Yeah.
And then then she like pretty much takes care and rounds up them, and then she confronts Crow. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah. She confronts him to actually, Crow stops. He's like, let's do a truce. Truce for a second. Let's talk. And, the humans are, all right, we'll hold off, the police, while you guys talk to each other. And so they're talking to each other, Crow and Athena. And Crow's like, okay, why don't we come up with a bet? So we could, basically, let's stop all this fighting right here. I will bet you that the humans are going to fuck this all up and cause a war, like a giant war with the Celestials, because they can't help it. And the Eternals, or Athena specifically, goes, I'll take that bet, and I bet that they won't do it, and everything will be fine. And so they call a truce based on this. That's the bet is, for right now, we'll hold off on this fight. And we have to wait until we see what the humans do against the Celestials, kind of thing. Because now that's what the whole end game for the Deviants was to cause fear in the humans so much that they either fight with the Deviants and make them bad to the Celestials, or now even better, attack
try
the
to
Celestials.
attack the Celestials.
You're gonna try to nuke a Celestial, So, that's basically how they kind of leave it. They also we find we find Icarus in the ocean as well, so he's released from his mind block or whatever that was called. It's a brain mine. They release him, so he's back with the Eternals, but he knows now. Okay, we're at this truce.
He's like, you're lucky there's a truce.
Yeah, and part of the truce was also you have to tell us where Icarus is and stuff. So that was like, okay. But now we have the main, government, is going to need to get talked to by the Eternals. So they're like, how can we talk to your government? And they actually tell, they have this big reveal with the government and this doctor that can talk to all of Earth's people. So maybe the UN or something. And he's like,
well, so they go. Well, it's at because this is at a college.
Well, but it's being televised.
It's being,
is what I
yeah.
mean. So like people who are watching this are.
I just thought it was funny they went to like a college.
Well, where else would you go?
I guess it's
I'm
true.
just joking. Like fucking, in comics, if you're a kid, you're reading this, you're like college.
College. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, all smart people go to a college, and then it probably gets televised everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's probably like C-SPAN or something. Is what this, I would imagine this will be now.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, we're televising to everybody across the world this giant thing. But basically, the Eternals and the Deviants reveal themselves to all of mankind, and we get like humans like, what? This is a trick, and then like, they basically just have to convince us stupid humans that this is real, and like the Celestials are here, and they're gonna be judging them, and this is gonna be a problem kind of thing.
Yeah. So y'all gotta be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
Like, do not fall into fear and whatnot. They're like, but that guy looks like a devil. And they're like, yeah, but he's not a devil. Look, and then they make him Crow get rid of his horns. He's like, yeah, well, I'm not a devil, but like, you guys are still gonna like screw things up.
Yeah. There was one funny part where they're like, he's like, I could even run for president, and they're like, no, you couldn't. Like he's like, I could run for a mayor or whatever, like because he looks like so human now without his horns.
Yeah.
But he's still pink or whatever. So I'm like, I
don't know about that. Yeah.
Arnold won. So if Arnold can win,
That's true.
This guy can win. Crow can win. So, but yeah, then we even have like Icarus flying around and showing him stuff. So basically, and even Cersei turns one of the people's heads into the thing.
Oh yeah,
the Fantastic Four. He's like, hey, I look like Ben Grimm. I was like, that was funny, I thought. But yeah, so they just show them things that are going on, and then we cut to that other spaceship that they found in the middle of the mountains, and it opens up, and there's even another Celestial called Gamenon, who's of the fourth host as well, and now. The people that were there, who were the government people, sent to look at that ship, they get killed by this giant.
Well, they get captured by this giant.
Is it captured? I thought it was dead because they point their guns at it, and then it's just like, report, come in.
Report, yeah. Well,
So I thought maybe he smashed them or something. Maybe you're right. He just picked them up and they dropped their guns and radios.
I think so. I think because he's collecting things.
Oh, okay. Oh,
he's one of the ones that's collecting.
Gotcha. So yeah. Gamenon. He is one of those collectors. So, and that is the end of this first story arc, the introduction of the Eternals, and we're gonna stop there for this episode. John actually read up to issue 11. So, if there's anything you want to add, that was cool.
I'll just say in general, like we do get a little more like so they are collected. They're going they're collect them and they're bringing these pods to Aramesh. And like Ajax and Dr. Damien are like looking at one of the pods, and Aramesh is like, yeah, go ahead. And so they open it, and it's those guys, and they're like, whoa! They all pop out, like, where were we? What happened?
What the fuck?
Yeah, and they're like, oh my god, like there's another one of those things, and he's red, and they're like, yeah, and Ajax is trying to explain, and Dr. Damien, backing him up, he's like, no, I'm human, and blah blah blah, and they're like, well, we're agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we were here to like investigate and like figure this out, and like obviously these guys are like very much like that.
Yeah, we're gonna fight them or whatever.
These guys are obviously here to kill us all. And
yeah.
Ajax is like, no, that's not what it is at all. And they're like freaking out, and then because the area that they are in, it's like protected because Ereshkigal is gonna wait there for 50 years or whatever. So they're like, how do we get out? And they're like, you don't get out. That's why they brought you here. They're like, no. And so they're like trying to figure it out, and they do shoot something at him. Obviously does absolutely nothing.
Boop, off of him.
Nothing at all. And Ajax is like, you know what? You guys are probably better. And he hits the little thing, and they disappear and go back into the little pod. And they're like, those guys are not the best humans to be out here right now.
Yeah. They need some time out.
And so the last thing I will say, this whole first book ends on a cliffhanger too, because we learn that I guess so Athena and Crow have like their bet going on, and Crow also is like a little bit into Athena, and he's like, if
who is?
I guess, yeah, he's like, like you're so good and I'm so bad. Like it could be a thing, right?
Yeah.
She's like,
I'm the yin to your yang.
She's like, I don't know. Maybe we'll see it. She like maybe we'll see at the end of this. And he's like, yeah, but like I think we could, right? that was a little funny thrown in. I like the humor in that. But apparently, I guess the Eternals are a little bit worried. At least the other Eternals, like up in Olympia. And so, what's his E1 Zeos or
Zuras?
Zuras. Is like, I'm gonna hit this beacon and call all the rest of the Eternals here because we need to form like this
Voltron.
But kind of they call it the Unimind.
Right, it's like a council probably.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it ends. And because I was like, I don't really understand quite what the Unimind is yet, but I'm like, obviously it's something to like. It's like my understanding and kind of piecing things together is that it's going to be an extra help on the back end to make sure like
the humans
are like,
because we'll fuck shit up.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's
I mean,
like, just
you can bet on us, but we'll fuck shit up.
But yeah,
on accident.
There's enough of it. Yeah. So yeah,
I think we all know we're gonna fuck it up.
Yeah. So like, I wanted to keep reading just because like I felt like this falls into that like it's that intro, so you got to get all the main information.
Right.
And I was like, I need a little bit more to go off of. Like I was like, this didn't quite give me quite enough, so that's why I kept reading.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I was appreciative that you did read so far. I was like, this is a 6-issue story arc. Why did you read further? So, but hey, that's why I'm like, hey, fill us in for anything cool that happens later. So it's nice to have that little info to know how it goes. But yeah. So what did you think of this, John? And what would you give it?
So we kind of talked about this coming into it, that you kind of got to grade these old ones on a curve.
Yes, this is from the 70s. This is a different writing style than nowadays stuff. So.
Yeah, like this is not like nowadays, especially in this like instant gratification TikTok world. I'm just kidding. Not obviously we weren't quite as bad in our 90s and 2000s comics, but in general, it's like we still want a little more action, a little more fast paced, and so like I had to put that aside at first when I was reading, because I was like, oh, this is a lot of like background explanations. Like, okay, I get it.
These were actual comics for children.
Yeah,
is what it was.
So, and that did remind me about what you said about like Marvel really having to be like, let me hold your hand, and like, because each issue was like, just in case you don't remember last time, this was like the basic generic of what happened, and then it would go into it, and then the next issue again right at the top was like a paragraph of like, in the last episode, the Deviants and the so
it's not made for trades. This is made for monthly reads.
Exactly. So taking that into consideration, it's Jack Kirby. The art in this is fantastic.
If we were just grading this on art, I would give this like a 9.
Yeah, no. and anybody that doesn't like appreciate and like look at the like detail and like again think about like, man, this is like his own unique style, that influence and like all of the things that we got out of this. Like if someone calls this gobbledygook, I think.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say this because someone's a fucking idiot.
That's why.
All right. So I was on. My brother sent this to me. He's like, "Hey, look at this." Apparently, people who are into the MCU but not comic fans, are looking at the original art of this, comparing it to what the movie looks like, and are going like, "What is this gobbledygook? It doesn't make any sense at all. It's ugly." I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, are you
the best, most famous artist of all time in Marvel history, possibly comics history, you could argue, and I mean, literally invented modern comic language of action and all this shit, and you're gonna sit there and be like, oh, his interesting, intriguing, different designs for Celestials and shit are. We can't figure out what's going on the page. Yeah. They're ugly.
Like even
too many colors.
Yeah, even if like this isn't like your favorite kind of art style and whatnot.
No, it's definitely. I've never seen art like this before. Like it's interesting.
That's what I said. Like I loved the Celestials. They were my favorite part of this. Like I said, I loved all their like. Yeah. They all like they're kind of generic-y robot-y bodies.
Their spaceships are awesome.
The ships are awesome. All of the like laser, like you said, the crackle. All of that is really cool. All of their helmets were unique and very different looking, to give them their own personalities.
Yes.
And then that's one thing. Every Eternal was uniquely different
completely
for as many as we're going to end up seeing.
Yeah.
Like, for whether like 8 or 9 that were introduced in here, every time they're on the page, I knew who they were. Like, they weren't like...
Right. Everyone's got a different costume, a unique power set.
Yeah.
It's okay. But it also is familiar because they base it on kind of Greek mythology and things like that. So I appreciate that he grounded it on Earth mythology and things.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't have to learn like that. That is one thing comparatively with some of the DC stuff that I've had to learn.
New shit with
I've
DC,
had to really learn some of DC. Like, we've had to go back, thankfully, and I'm really appreciative of it. But we had to go back, and I had to learn some back history of DC to understand what's going on. Whereas with some of this, maybe there's a little bit of hand-holding, but like he grounded this in stuff that like most people generically understanding, like get a little bit of that
with a
history.
basic education.
With the U.S. public education system, you probably have heard of a little bit of this.
Did you see Hercules as a child?
Oh yeah, there you go. Did Disney? Did Disney, who now owns all of this, teach you those things?
I can go the distance.
What did the... He's a zero to hero.
The music's just like that. Fuck yeah.
Anyway,
that was my jam.
What do they say? He's like Hercules, like
Huncules.
That's right.
So yeah. So
anyway,
with all that being said, John, what would you give this?
So I'm again grading
realistically too. You grade it on a curve, but also if you're going to hand this to someone,
I will say this. I would not. And I also probably wouldn't reread like the initials as far as I understood. I would go forward from like when like the things actually start picking up and like what the big plans are.
Especially if you watch the movie. I haven't seen the movie. I'm assuming the movie's going to introduce all these characters. So if you watch the movie, just start at issue 7.
Yeah. So I'm going to give this a 6. This is as a solid. It gives me a good base to go off of. I know
what the whole overarching plot of what the Celestials are there for. You know what the Eternals are there for. You know what the Deviants are. You know what the humans are. So like we know the mythology.
Yeah,
you got a good base in it.
And the only reason I'm giving it 6 and not higher is because it's that again kind of opening ground setting. So there's a lot of you got to get through that. Yeah. But again, like I love the art and I definitely like. I'm curious enough to see where things go and like what, like, cause like you said, this is still like we're getting the movie now and whatnot, but this still is like I would say to the majority of public, very much like an unknown.
Yes.
Like unless you're a Marvel fan, like you don't.
Even as a Marvel fan, I mean, this book. I remember when the first omnibus came out of this, and I was like, "What is the Eternals?" And they were like, "It's like the New Gods, but for Marvel." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then it went out of print immediately because they only printed like 100 of them or something. And then and so I never got to read it, which is
I just imagine you being like, "Oh, it's like the New Gods." Like, okay, I've read New Gods. Well, whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, so it's the shittier version of the cooler thing I like. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because Matt Hansen reading comics now.
I'm a DC kid.
Well, you're still a DC guy, but Matt Hansen reading comics now compared to when you like worked at the comic book shop,
a little different.
Is a little like you still read a little bit of everything, but you very much were like that what that kid stuff over there from Marvel is nothing compared to
I mean, I'm still kind of that guy, but but I will. I have there's Marvel. I like the X-Men a lot. I like if you give me a good Chris Claremont X-Men story or whatever, I'm down. I'm down with that. We've read a lot of that X-Men stuff. So, you give me some Barry Windsor Smith on Wolverine story.
Oh yeah,
fuck yeah, I'm into that. So, or even Spider-Man. We read Kraven's Last Hunt. That's a fantastic fucking story. So, there are definitely runs of Marvel stuff that I like. I'm just, I'm a sucker for the DC stuff. So, but yeah, so you'll give it a 6. I will also give it a 6. I was thinking like maybe a 6.5, but that would just be for the creativity. Like you're changing Marvel because before this, I want to say the 70s before this might even predate like the space stuff for Marvel. So like, did it predate Thanos and stuff? I'm not 100% sure, but it might be what kind of spawned. It was all maybe at the same time or what spawned that space creativity later on, you know? So like if there was no fourth world, or I mean, no, God damn it. If there was, I want to say, because they call it the fourth host in this shit. So if there were no Eternals, would there be Thanos? Would there be an Infinity Gauntlet? Would Jim Starlin have written all that cool, space stuff or whatever? You know, like I don't know. You know, so like, and that a lot of that is very cool stuff. From, you know, would there be a Guardians of the Galaxy? I don't know. So I should have researched it before, but it's at least around the same time. If it wasn't before, it was during the exact same stuff, opening people's minds to. He was writing stuff that they're like, cool, you expanded the space stuff. Now I can go write crazy stories like Mojo and whatever. You know, like I can go write. What's the name of that planet that's a Green Lantern or whatever? You know, like I can do stuff like that. Yeah. You know, because is it Mogo?
I think Mogo.
Yeah. Mogo, yeah. Yeah, but like, so you know, I can go write crazy shit or whatever, and because now you've opened the space up to the Marvel universe. But it was before we had Doctor Strange, so you got like the astral planes and stuff like that. Was space open to the Marvel universe really before this? I mean, you had the Fantastic Four in the, you know, end dimension or whatever, but like not really. There was no space, there was no Celestials, there was no things like that. So I feel like there's Galactus. Galactus was probably the most spacey thing.
Yeah, and we just knew he ate worlds. We didn't know the stuff that was happening on them.
Yes. So you know, and that's like Jack Kirby too. So you could so you could say Jack Kirby really, you know, expanded the space part of Marvel and, you know, all the Universal stuff. So so that's why I was like, oh, for creativity I might give it a 6.5. But 6.5 in that range, I would definitely say on this. I would not give it to someone who's never read Marvel before. Unless you give it to a kid. If you give it to like an actual like not middle schooler, like a younger kid, like elementary school, like here's the Eternals, and they read it and they're like, oh cool, like, you know, I could see that because it is made for kids like that old. But I wouldn't give it, like, unless they're into Jack Kirby or something, I wouldn't give this to someone who's, I love the MCU and I just saw the movie for the first time. I'm gonna read this. Like,
yeah,
no, don't do that. So, if anything, just explain it to them. You know, like, like the Eternals. This is what it is. You know, I heard a podcast that explained it. So
that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're here so you guys don't gotta read through some of these good but not easy to read through books. You know, so we're here for you guys. So on that note, let's see. Next week we're going to be reading. Oh, this is like the first time we're going to do something like this. We're going to be reading two different stories of the same story. So we're going to read two different versions of the same story. So we're going to be reading The Frost Giant's Daughter, the Dark Horse Conan series, and the new Cimmerian Frost Giant's Daughter series. So they're both 3 issues long, so it's going to be 6 issues total, but we're going to like compare and contrast them and talk about like the differences of brand and which one we like better and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. Are you excited?
I am very excited. You know, I know a bit about history of this, and then obviously with the Conan side of this.
Well,
we
read the Dark Horse one, but we didn't. Our episode got fucked up, so we never did that one for the episode. So we decided, hey, instead of rereading it and just talking about it again, why don't we do something interesting, and we'll compare, because I just read this new Cimmerian brand series of this story, which I liked a lot, compared to the Dark Horse ones, which I also liked a lot.
He's trying not to tell me, so I don't get, too...
Yeah, I don't want to spoil everything, but...
So, like, obviously I know the base of the story, but I am curious to see, and it'll be fun. We'll have, it's like a little crisscross episode of, like... head to head.
Yeah, and I might even throw in some of the actual book stuff in there because I've read the book as well, like the actual story.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fun issue. It's going to be a little different than we normally do, but both are actually worth reading. So if you want to read either of those, check out the first, or I think they're both 3 issues series called Frost Giant's Daughter of Conan. So, or the Cimmerian, depending on if you have the copyright or not. So yeah. And, and we should mention that we got our coffee going, which is our, if you feel like donating, it's our support page, but also it's our newsletter page. So if you want to just, instead of having to figure out what we put out each week on YouTube or our podcast, whatever app you follow us on, we actually put everything in this one page. So if you follow us on ko-fi.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, you get everything. Every week we post everything we do on that one page. So.
Yeah, so you can see like Warped Tour, like, oh, that one sounds cool. I'll check that out this week, or check them all out.
And we also are going to be doing some tiers on that. I am specifically going to be doing a special Matt's Minis that I decided this week that I'm going to be doing just for that. So I'm going to start recording that, and it's going to be maybe the $3 tier or $5 tier. I'm not sure which tier it is. And then you'll see. We have a $2 tier right now, which is just like, hey, you get to pick a book we do. And then that's the $2 tier. And then if it's a $3 or $5 tier, I'm not sure which one, but it's going to be a Matt's Minis, and it's going to be of Spawn.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to start Matt's Mini Spawn because I feel like that's a good series that people haven't read enough of. Like, they might have read some of it, but I'm just going to read all of it. So, and I'm going to try to do multiples of those. I'm going to try to do them more than once a week if I can, but we'll see. We'll see what I can get out. But it's going to hopefully attract people to that if you like Matt's Minis. And then one of the other things we're talking about, which we are going to do, we just got to figure out when to start it, is we're going to do a react videos to Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
So that's going to be maybe the $5, maybe the $10 tier. I'm not sure which one that would be, but the higher up tier, because that takes a lot longer to edit and whatnot. But we were adding some of these tiers just for you guys, and all of these will actually, the Spawn is not going to be on YouTube. That is just going to be exclusively on our Coffee. But the React we'll upload those later to YouTube. So
yeah,
smaller versions. We'll do the full React on Coffee. You can see the whole episode of our reaction, but we're gonna do like the edited versions for YouTube. Yeah. So so that's coming up. We got some things. Probably start maybe in the next year. I'm thinking we'll start doing these things. So, and if you guys have any suggestions of things you want, or want us to do, or things you want us to read and stuff, feel free to email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, @gmail.com.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out our social media. We've got our Twitter, our Instagram, and like we were saying, YouTube. We've got a lot of exclusives on there. So yeah, make sure you like, share, subscribe, rate us on Apple.
On whatever you're on.
Yeah, whatever you're on, rate us.
Rate us. I don't even know how to look at that stuff. I tried to look one time. I'm like, I don't know. We got a couple 5 stars, but I don't know how to continuously look at what it is on Apple. So yeah, I don't know. I'm bad at technology, but yeah. So we got some big stuff coming up, and we hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.